Welcome to this episode of Eureka. We are going to have a very interesting, engaging conversation with Dr. Bhan, who was the former Secretary of Department of Biotechnology and a professor at All India Institute of Medical Sciences. Imagine 1980s, one of those days, maybe 82 or 83. It was night and this young student was in Safdarjung Hospital. 45 children were admitted with dehydration. And next day morning, within 15 minutes, 15 of them died. That incident changed his life forever. We are going to continue this conversation. Keep watching Eureka. Before that, we'll take a quick look at his brief profile. Keep watching Eureka.
Dr. Maharaj Kishan Bhan, a Padma Bhushan awardee who left no stone unturned to protect and cure millions of children from one of the most deadly disease, rotavirus. He is known for developing rotaviral vaccine in India. The development of a rotavirus vaccine in India from a neonatal strain was a landmark effort in team science and affordable innovation in India and in global health. Born in Kashmir, Dr. Bhan did his MBBS degree in 1969 from Armed Forces Medical College, Pune, and MD degree from Postgraduate Institute of Medical Education and Research, Chandigarh. He has carried out extensive postdoctoral research at All India Institute of Medical Sciences in the areas of diarrheal diseases and child nutrition with an emphasis on public health issues. Currently, Dr. Bhan is National Science Professor at IIT Delhi and was the former Secretary, Department of Biotechnology, Government of India. He is the President of JIPMER, Puducherry. He is a Fellow of National Science Academics and a Shanti Swarup Bhatnagar awardee. His research was focused on elucidating infection nutrition crosstalk and its impact on incidence and severity of mucosal infections and disease. He has achieved wide recognition for his research contributions that have impacted children's health and survival across the developing world. His notable contributions include the development of an indigenous rotavirus vaccine, which is now introduced in the National Program of Immunization, development of low osmolarity ORS, zinc as a treatment of diarrhea. As Secretary, Department of Biotechnology, he was one of the key architects of designing the biotechnology ecosystem in the country and transformation in translational research and academic industry interaction.
Welcome, sir. It's a very wonderful opportunity. You have had a very excellent stint and built DBT into a new organization, I should say. So let me start with this incident that changed, in some sense, your life, where you thought saving children or science for children and science for research, how they can go hand in hand. Can you tell us what exactly happened on that night?
You see, I was doing my residency in a hospital, which is a very busy hospital, and a lot of poor people's children were brought there. And it used to be a struggle. We used to spend days and days together trying to cope with the rush that we used to get. And this particular night, almost about 45-50 children were admitted with dehydration, and many children died early morning, and I was all alone at night, battling them with this nursing. And when I was going back home, it occurred to me, why do these kids have to be in the hospital? Do we have the knowledge, the tools, technology, behavior promoting strategies by which we can prevent any child in India from ever getting dehydrated or getting a very complicated GI illness? And that was the day I decided I'm going to do something through science and try and produce knowledge and tools so that nobody ever needs to go to Safdarjung Hospital for dehydration. And I'm very happy to tell you we are more or less in that situation today.
If you look at numbers, what do you think are the changes? Like, for example, what were the kind of numbers those days and what's the kind of numbers today?
5 million children used to die of diarrheal diseases in the developing world every year.
5 billion.
5 million, and that number is down to 600,000 now. And in India, from a leading cause of childhood death, It's way down to 5 and 6 number, And if you go to a hospital today, the situation of those earlier days, when wards used to be full of kids with dehydration and IV bottles, you don't see that picture anywhere, even in remote areas. Even in villages, dehydration is
Yes,
not...
it's now a kind of a history. You have had something more than 3 decades of research experience. I mean, if one has to ask you 1 or 2 areas which even today you will cherish and remember, what would they be?
I think producing a rotavirus vaccine with a large number of collaborators, I led that effort. Not only because it is useful, and because it is used by the government all over India. Actually, I think the day this current Prime Minister took over, within a month's time, he ordered that this vaccine that we had developed from AIMS and other collaborations with Department of Biotechnology be introduced all over India. And it makes me happy that something we developed is actually getting to the poorest children in the remotest corners of India.
What is this rotavirus actually?
So, almost 1 in 2 dehydration and severe diarrhea episodes occur because of this virus called rotavirus.
Okay.
Right? And you can't prevent this from hand washing, safe water, because it's a virus. And therefore, vaccine is, and there's no antibiotic for it. So, vaccine was the only way to do this. And we discovered and isolated a virus strain in India, which at AIMS in the newborn unit, which was very unique. Most babies, before they were discharged from the newborn nursery after birth, would excrete this virus in the stool, but nobody would get sick.
Okay. They had this virus, but they were not getting sick.
Yes. And then we suddenly realized maybe this is a God-made vaccine. This strain is naturally attenuated. Some genes may have been changed, or because of selection pressure, that it's lost the ability to cause disease. And then I asked myself a question: can it induce immunity? Can it work like a vaccine? And it took us 15 years of development work to finally work with Bharat Biotech in Hyderabad, produce a vaccine for 60 rupees per immunization dose. The government uses that vaccine all over India.
That's a very interesting. This story is something like, for example, where I mean, people say that why the dog did not bark. I mean, the virus was there and it should have caused disease, but it was not causing disease. That led you to ask a question: is this strain can perhaps be used to produce a vaccine? That's a very interesting. I was told that this vaccine today is not only used in India, but also in many developing worlds, right?
Yes, it's being exported to many developing countries. It's pre-qualified by WHO. It's purchased through procured through the UNICEF system, and so it is a vaccine for everyone.
You developed a vaccine. It's being administered all over the country. How many children are saved per year, if you want to put a number?
So I would say our estimate was about 1 lakh children every year, and thousands and thousands of hospital admissions. You see the plight of a woman living in a small town or a village whose baby gets dehydrated at night. Navigating a hospital is a nightmare for her. So it's not only death,
but also preventing illness.
Crisis, family crisis, huge expense, desperation, helplessness.
Yeah. You are an academician, you had excelled in lots of work, and suddenly this new Department of Biotechnology was created, and then you became one of its, I mean, not the first, but later its secretary. When this institution was created, this department, separate department was created, what do you think was the challenges that you faced and how did you meet them?
You see, when this department was created from Department of Science and Technology, I think the idea was that like IT, biotech was a disruptive, transformative area, and it could produce solutions for health, for agriculture, for environment, create jobs, industry, enterprise. And so there was a sense that this needs a special focus. We had this sense in India that missions work, but routine doesn't work.
Okay.
And so there was this spirit. But when DBT was created, the initial leaders of DBT realized that the biological science, the foundation of biotechnology, was not strong in India. So how do you succeed as a technology power
If you don't have basic,
Right.
you have to stand on your feet first of all.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So they started building biology first in universities and made institutions. DBT has 16 institutions, CSIR built institutions, DST built institutions, and we promoted biology in IITs and Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore, and so on and so forth. But then when I joined in, I realized the original idea was for producing technology and products and tools to transform human health and agriculture
Okay.
and environment. But we got so busy in building biology that the mechanisms for promoting innovation were not there,
Not adequately done.
not
Yeah.
adequate. So I decided that we will now build on that contribution of earlier leaders for building biology, we'll build an enterprise of innovation. And that was a beautiful 10-year journey. I was thinking all the time, why have I got into government? And my son one day told me, instead of criticizing everything government does from the outside, go and spend a decade and try to help.
Okay.
And I think that's one message I learned from you learn from your children,
Yeah,
and that's what he told me, and that's what I decided to do. But then I said, if I have come here all the way, let me really make a difference. And so the first lesson I learned is that biotechnology requires multiple disciplines, convergence, interinstitutional collaboration, strong academia-industry collaboration, regulation, domain knowledge of agriculture, health and environment, entrepreneurship, commercialization, technology transfer. It's a very complex field. And how do you do these things from a ministry through committees? I think one of the errors that we make in the design of governance, we combine policy role and implementation role in the same hour.
Same way.
The lesson that I applied to DBT was to say, DBT sets the purpose, DBT defines the goals, compatible with society's needs. But I create another agency that will deliver this agenda of DBT. So we created an agency called BIRAC.
Okay.
I have to say, it is a thriving and brilliant institution in India. You ask any biotechnology startup or a company guy, and they would say, BIRAC is their mother.
Yeah.
Right? And that was a unique experience. And BIRAC used existing institutions across the country to foster innovation and take discovery and knowledge into solutions. And I think the most magnificent example of that is what we have done with vaccines.
Okay. So, your effort was to promote industry research, startups, so that some new products, etc., can come using biotechnology. In this effort, how much you think we actually succeeded? Of course, obviously, when you fund 100 startups, one doesn't accept all the 100 to flourish. At least few of them. Did we make a mark?
So I would say I think India's greatest success in biotech is in the vaccine arena.
Okay.
We are today considered one of the global leaders in vaccines. This is one area where we are better than China. All the way.
Okay.
We produce and commercialize new vaccines in India every year, 3-4 new vaccines.
Every year, some 3-4 new vaccines for specific purposes.
We supply 40 to 50% of all vaccines used in the world.
40 to 50% all vaccines
all
used
the
in the
vaccines
world.
used. India is uniquely placed, and earlier it was manufacture. Now it is innovation.
Both combined, actually.
Yes.
Right?
From our science institutes as well as technology transfer from outside, our collaborations with NIH and others. So I would say, and we have learned to do this from start to finish, from discovery to public health. These vaccines are being used by the Ministry of Health in national programs. We're not talking of money and profits. We are talking of lives saved. Ministry of Health and Department of Biotechnology have brilliantly collaborated to take innovation to the grassroots, to the last mile.
Okay.
80% of India's children are immunized with all these vaccines today.
That's a kind of
Brilliant interministerial cooperation. The whole act got together.
Now, if we move to another area, I mean, India is a very large country with huge diversity in terms of economic status or culture, or I mean even the terrain. One size perhaps will not fit all, and also solutions which are resource intensive, which may be acceptable in a developed world, would not fit to India. So we need a different kind of innovation. How much we have succeeded in that?
Very, very well. If you see the cost of vaccines, the cost of drugs, the cost of devices, brilliantly. I think this is where the government's role in biotech has been, and health technology has been very good, because we have de-risked innovation effort. Because we have created demand by spreading public programs in maternal child health, chronic diseases, with this new Ayushman Bharat that has been announced. Now we will create so much demand that industry will move into what is called high volume, low price system. India cannot be a small volume, high price. That's Western.
Yeah.
India is large volume,
Low cost.
low cost. And that I think we've done exceptionally well.
That's a very, very interesting point, and this is where we will take another short break. Keep watching Eureka. After the break, we are going to ask him, biotechnology at the same time evokes fear and also hope. How do we deal with it? Keep watching Eureka. Welcome back to Eureka. We are having a very wonderful and very enlightening conversation with Professor Bhan, who was former Secretary of Department of Biotechnology and currently a professor at All India Institute of Medical Sciences. So one question is that when India became a free country, I mean, we had huge problems. So to tackle, for example, some of the health problems, I mean, we had lots of programs. Let's say leprosy eradication program or malaria eradication program. They were all aimed at solving problems with the given knowledge at that point. That you thought was effective for that time, but do you think that's the right way to go all the way?
We have to work on many fronts. India is a very large country. We can't take one track or the other. We need to solve some old residual problems, like nutrition, for example. This requires development and some scientific know-how and new ways of doing things. But to sustain India's large and massive population with enterprise, jobs, good health, safety, we need new knowledge. The threats of climate. So discovery and ability to convert new knowledge into new tools and applications, new services, new solutions, and then take them into society and people. This is a complete discovery to solution pathway. We can't have choices. You can't say that we are very smart at discovery, but we don't know how to translate knowledge. Or that we will only do translation because we want immediate gratification, but we will stop the pipeline of discovery. We can't afford that.
Look at, for example, everybody now talks about Israel as an example. How they are producing newer and newer tools, newer and newer solutions, newer products. And many people are saying that we should just follow that model. But whereas some people are saying, look at, for example, United Kingdom. It's been, in the top leadership of science by discovering new knowledge, and say that we should be following that. How do you see these two issues?
I think there is a balance. For me, United States is a very good model. They discover enormous knowledge. They have a huge pool of scientists and innovations. They believe in redundancy, change, new designs. Right? They're radically trying new things. But they also know how to innovate, how to create wealth out of technology, how to create jobs out of technology, how to create well-being out of technology. And I think it is that kind of broad capability across this whole pathway that large countries like India and China have. Small countries can make many smart choices, not us, but just too big. We are destined to be one of the big stars of this world. We must excel on many fronts.
You cannot just pick and choose one area and say that we'll just
in
do
the
that.
short term, yes, but I'm thinking about India 1,000 years from now, right?
Yeah.
We will be the designer of solutions and knowledge for this world. Are we prepared for that? So you have to understand your destiny. Your destiny is to be great. Don't think small. Excel in all fronts.
Yeah. We have been discussing how we cannot afford to choose one particular area and only excel in that like a small country. But as a big country, we need to excel everywhere, which essentially means that we also need good human resources. What's the challenge you see there?
I would say two things. We need well-educated people whose creativity, imagination and innovativeness has been stimulated, nurtured at home, in day-to-day discourse in society and in the place of education, that is school, college and university. We are producing people with good comprehension, but we are not bringing out their creativity strongly. And that requires a mix of education and experience. Experience is where you get your questions and ideas. This is where you make observation. You look at earlier years, now we become a very technology society in science, but in the original discoveries, all coming from astute observation.
Yeah,
How do you observe if you never leave your home and classroom? Sheltered life, right? Leadership, creativity, imagination cannot just come from books and classroom. Life. Expose young people. Let them travel, let them form their societies, their meetings, just nurture. It's just not about marks. What about the person? Do something to the student that he's a transformed individual. It just pains me when I see some of my medical friends coming out of medical schools after 10 years, 15 years of education and then asking a question, what do you think I should do? And I keep saying, it looks like we haven't had a good conversation when you are with us, right?
Yeah.
I should be asking you this question. You are the leader now. So I think the place of education must emphasize development of individuals.
Let me come to the question which I introduced before the break, which is the word biotechnology among common people evokes two emotions simultaneously. At one level, it gives you hope. With biotechnology, for example, incurable genetic diseases, people think we can cure. Genetic cure, things of that kind. So people hope that biotechnology will bring them solution which will remove certain kind of illnesses, etc. But at the same time, there is also a fear of biotechnology that it may create a golem. It may create species which are having a disastrous effect on environment or biodiversity or the way we live, the way we were living earlier. How do you see this fear and hope at the same time with biotechnology?
I think apprehension is legitimate because technology is neutral and our history has taught us that technology can do huge amount of good to human life. But we must use it rationally and sensibly. So green revolution did well, but we also worry about our soil, right? So it's a combination of effectiveness and safety. But in making those choices, fear is only a privilege of the weak. What I like about some of the countries is that they deal with new things carefully but with courage, with a certain sense of cautious optimism. We should not go the European way. They get frightened too quickly. I have to be honest, right? It's like you don't allow a child to go out of home because you're afraid there are cars on the road and the traffic is bad. He won't grow, right? So we should apply a scientific approach to assessment of safety. We should apply a scientific approach to making policy. Our difficulty is our conversation is ill-structured, not documented, not detailed and critiqued in a scientific way. And I think I hold scientists of this country responsible to some degree because they must also learn how to deal with our society, our people and our government by bringing science directly to these agencies and not through somebody else. We must transform our regulatory system, our policy framework. Now, policy framework cannot all be political, cannot all be civic society. It is a combination of multiple forces, and I think scientists must enlarge its role. My own, in medicine, if I apply the most advanced biotechnology to a fetus, Indians won't protest. Why? Because an individual benefits.
Yeah.
But in agriculture and environment, this is public good without individual benefit. Then suddenly we take a different turn. All the resistance to application of modern technology or biotechnology is not coming in medicine, remember that.
Yeah.
It is only coming in agriculture and environment. Why? Because when your child is affected or your wife is ill, then you will try anything.
Yeah.
But when it is the common good, no individual interest. We're being selfish. So we must, I respect all the reservation. I don't want more risks than benefit.
Yeah.
Right? So the question is, we should continuously invest in studying benefit and risk. We must honestly talk to each other. We must listen and teach. Now we look at CRISPR technology. Probably the most transformative technology we have found in this century. It could transform medicine and agriculture. The question is, how do we deal with it? So I would say, with science, through the scientific approach, with caution, not with fear and rejection.
Okay.
You don't reject beautiful scientific produce. We judge it, we study it, we learn about it, we play with it, we feel it. At some point we feel comfortable. I think it's okay.
That's I think a very, very important point. Caution is fine. Being apprehensive that it may cause perhaps risk is also fine. But fear and rejection is not the way that is going to actually help us.
Fact-based. Modern society must decisions based on facts, not perception.
Evidence-based.
Evidence and facts. So we must present facts well, we must document facts well, we must marshal them well, and we must be very honest in saying this much we don't know. The unknown must be not camouflaged. It must not be buried. It must be communicated. This is truth. This is a Gandhian country. We must speak truth to each other. That's what breeds confidence. That's what breeds trust. I have no desire to promote something that would hurt Indians, right? So why would I not share? Just because I was a DBT secretary doesn't mean I have to promote a department's interest at the expense of winning the trust of this country's people. So we also have to learn how to communicate with each other.
That's, I think, a very, very important point, that we need a public system where these issues are debated more rationally and evidence-based.
Yeah.
With this, we will end this Eureka for want of time. Keep watching Eureka. We'll come back with another episode next week. Thank you.